Gaining confidence as a DIYer isn't just about mastering the tools. It depends equally on using the right products. There's a huge variety of options at the lumber yard or hardware store, and it's easy to get lost trying to figure out which is right for you. Join me as I shop the Dunlumber aisles for various DIY products and show you how to use a few of them. The Pacific Northwest doesn't have the market cornered on rot, but let's face it, it's pretty wet around here, and rot is a common occurrence. Sometimes you can easily replace a board, say a deck board or a stair tread. It's easy to access, it's easy to get a brand new piece of lumber into that spot. In other cases, maybe a raftertail or a windowsill, it's a lot bigger deal to rip out that one piece of wood, and you might not have to. Our friends at System 3 Resins make a full line of epoxies that help treat and repair rot damage. So let's talk about those. The first product that you'd use is Rot Fix. Rot Fix is a very liquid epoxy. You would use it after you carve away all the loose rotten wood and you're down to semi-hard, still structurally sound wood. Think of this as water soaking into a sponge and hardening. It soaks into the wood pores that are there and readies it for the next step, which is sculpt wood. Sculpt wood comes in two variations. It comes in either a paste or a putty. As you might expect, the paste is a thinner consistency, kind of like toothpaste. It's used for smaller voids like cracks and fills those in easily. They will harden and you'll be ready for painting after that. Sculpt wood putty is more like a clay. Two-part epoxy, just like the other products, that you mold together and then push in, filling the void that you carved out earlier. And once hardened, will hold a screw, will take paint just like wood does. This allows you to repair the board rather than replace it. Let me show you how they work. Okay, so here we are, ready to figure out how these rot repair products work. We have a couple boards here. One's kind of rotted. We're going to use some of the Rot Fix products on that. This board has a crack in it. We'll be using the sculpt paste for that. So let's get started. The first product we're going to use is Rot Fix. It's a two-part epoxy, and compared to most epoxies, it's very liquid. We're going to pour the small vial into the partial filled larger vial. Put the cap back on and give it a nice shake. All right, so that's all shaken up. Go ahead and pour that into a tub. And then we just have an inexpensive paintbrush that we're going to use to apply. Paints on easily. Get it into the crevices. For now, we're going to set this one aside, let it dry, and move to the sculpt paste. And we're going to use that on this board here that has the nice crack running down the length of it. So it's equal parts of the sculpt wood paste. We're going to eyeball it and get as equal amounts as I can possibly, and stir them together. Stir them well so that there's a consistent color and you don't see any more streaking. This doesn't set up in a matter of seconds, so you don't have to worry. You've got time to work with it. That said, don't mix up a whole bunch of it. You just want to work in small batches because it does set up fairly complex. All right, that's a nice consistent color. And one can just spread that into a crack, forcing it down into it. Our goal here at the end is just to have a nice smooth surface. Wipe off the excess. And there you go, you've filled the crack and let the epoxy dry before painting. Now we'll go back to this kind of gnarly piece that's rotted away some, no longer a square edge. So we're gonna fix that with the sculpt wood putty. Two-part epoxy, just like the other products. Comes in two little tubs. And you just mix together equal amounts. And just form a new putty. Just like with the sculpt wood paste, it's two different colors so you can easily see when they're mixed. You know they're properly mixed when you have a consistent color and no more streaking. So I've got equal amounts there. Now I'm just gonna pick it up in my gloved hands and knead it together until it's combined well, and then we'll put it onto the rotten board. This is looking good now, one color. We're ready to go ahead and apply it onto the board. We're just going to force it into the cracks. Our goal here is to restore the original shape of the board. We're going to overfill a little bit because we can sand it off later. You can use a putty knife to force it in, or just use your hands, whatever works for you. And I'm just taking off some excess. I don't want to do too much sanding when I'm done here. And at that point, you'd be setting it aside to dry. So we did this on a different piece so that we can show you what it's like after it dries. So this piece has had the sculpt wood paste put into the cracks and the sculpt wood putty on the edges here. It's overfilled, like I said, so we're going to sand it down a bit. All right, just keep sanding until you've got it down to the shape you want using a power sander or sanding sponge. At this point, you've got the piece of wood back into the shape you want. You're ready to paint. Start with a primer, then your final coat of paint, and you're done. You've restored the piece of wood back to close to original, even strong enough to hold a screw or nail. So with these products, you're able to take a board that you thought you had to replace and restore it instead. If it's an easy board to replace, by all means go ahead and replace it. But if it's hard to get to, part of a larger structure, don't give up, you can restore it. For more tips and tricks, visit diy.dunlumber.com.